BBC News and other news organisations have not been able to send journalists into Gaza to report on the situation on the ground there. Let's speak to Husam Zomlot, who's head of the Palestinian mission to the United Kingdom and joins us now. Mr. Zomlot, good morning.
Good morning to you, Omar.
Thank you very much indeed for joining us. I should be clear that you represent Palestinians. You don't represent Hamas, which is a designated terrorist group by the UK and many other countries. So I'm not going to hold you to account for their actions. But what do you think the effect of the 7th October attacks of last year has been for the cause of Palestinians across the region?
Well, today is the 8th, Amol, the 8th of October, and this marks for the Palestinians the beginning of what the ICJ described legally as a plausible genocide. It represents the unprecedented mass murder of innocent civilians in Gaza, mostly women and children. It represents the unprecedented mass destruction of homes, schools, hospitals, infrastructure. It represents the unleashing of a completely exterminating project that wants to see as many Palestinians killed and as many livelihoods destroyed, so they make sure that Palestinians are unable to live on their land. And Amol, please allow me here. You started by saying that the Hamas-led, and you cannot verify because you are not there. The question is why you are not there, why the BBC is not there. Because Israel prevents you and blocks you from going and reporting and conveying the truth. And this constant sort of doubting Palestinian figures, these figures are international figures. These are UN figures. And this is the Palestinian National Ministry in Ramallah that verifies these figures. When you say Hamas-led, you just want to undermine the suffering of the Palestinian people. And we pick on the 7th. You start from the 7th. We've discussed the 7th many times, but since then, 365 days of utter suffering by the Palestinian people, loss of life and livelihoods, and for 76 years. I mean, you're talking about more than 28,000 days that the Palestinians have been facing atrocities after atrocities like the 7th of October. So it is important now not to look backward, because if you look backward, you will find so much and too much atrocities.
And that's why sorry
we need to look forward.
Yes, let's do that together.
How do we stop this madness?
Let's do that together. I just want to point out a couple of things. One is, as you know, Mr. Zomlot, the BBC News is very, very keen to get inside Gaza, as you rightly acknowledge, and we're very keen to convey the truth. On the question of genocide, which is a term you use, obviously we understand why you use it. Just want to say, so that our listeners understand, that the ICJ hasn't yet determined that, and it's obviously something that the Israelis very strongly reject as an accusation. That's in the fullness of it. We'll speak to them. We also speak to you. What I really want to do with you, if we can, is to try and understand how Palestinians are thinking about their future and where you think the events of the past year have left their future, which, as you say, is where we should turn to. What is that future? What are the prospects for the Palestinian state? What are the prospects, do you think, for peace and security for Palestinians right now?
The first and foremost is to reach and enforce an immediate and permanent ceasefire. That's the most important thing. We must stop this senseless mass murder and mass destruction by the Israeli war machine. Number two, we need to make sure that that ceasefire holds not only in Palestine, but regionally. But we also want to employ the full force of the law, international law here. Number one, we need accountability so this never happens again. We need to send the war criminals to The Hague. And that's why we pressed ahead with the ICC, and we call on the UK government and all other governments not to intervene, not to meddle, not to stop or block our efforts, because it's only the ICC that can go and investigate what happens since the 7th of October and before. And we, as the state of Palestine, have been pressing in that direction. Number two, leave the issue of genocide to the International Court of Justice, please. When all the judges say that it is plausible that Israel is committing genocide, and when they all say that now Israel is officially on trial for genocide, then it is not up to you, Omar, or any politician or media experts to decide on the terms.
I don't want to spend too long on one term. Just so you know, the ICJ has not issued its verdict yet on that. They're looking into it, as you say. They've not issued a verdict, and obviously we, the BBC, are not going to take a view on that. What we really want to talk about is the way forward for the Palestinians.
We need international legality to take its full duties, responsibilities, and prosecute it, and we will abide fully by whatever outcome that comes from the international legal system. and we need to build a political horizon. We have got to visit the root cause of all this.
And it's on that.
We have got to end Netanyahu's mad dog-like behavior.
And it's on
We
that
have
political
got-
horizon. It's on that political horizon, if I may. That I don't know if you heard international editor Jeremy Bowen on the program yesterday, but he went to the site in the West Bank of what was to be the Palestinian parliament, but was abandoned when the peace process didn't work because too many powerful people, Palestinians and Israelis, were against it. And Jeremy suggested that it showed really the broken dreams, a sense that there's very little positive to look at in terms of the way Palestinians might be able to live alongside Israelis and vice versa, which is something our listeners care about. In terms of where that political process begins again, where, in your view, you've mentioned the ceasefire, but what will it take for that political process to begin again and for a political solution to the Palestinian dream?
First, it begins with recognition of the state of Palestine by the UK and the rest of the West, because more than 70% of the world have recognized the state of Palestine of late, as you followed Spain, Ireland, Norway, Slovenia, etc. And then Palestine becomes a full member state of the United Nations. So it is no longer about Israel and the Palestinians. It's no longer unclear, the final destination, which has been interpreted by Israel as a license to encroach on the land that it has occupied. And then from there, we drill backward. Once the clarity is established, and by the way, recognition of the state of Palestine and the right to self-determination of the Palestinians is not a gift, is not a favor, it's an inalienable right, long overdue, and every government, every country that has been waiting has contributed to the genocide we are witnessing right now, to the mass destruction and mass killing. We need to move forward from there to build an international peace conference, to enforce international resolutions, implement them, give the guarantees to all parties, all actors, and make sure that this region sits on its feet again and stand. And the core issue is the Palestinian issue. We believe now, with the clarity of the law, the ruling of the International Court of Justice about the unlawfulness of the Israeli presence in the occupied territories, that all of its illegal settlement expansion is illegal, all the settlements must be dismantled, and all third parties must cease any political, legal, or material support, is a major legal advancement that needs political will in the part of the world to enforce the law rather than negotiate the law.
Understood. Mr. Zomlot, thank you very much indeed for joining us this morning.